Alex, that brings us over to you, and it appears that things in Germany now so serious, they're simply going to get rid of opposition parties.
Indeed, Brian. Debbie's segment there on e-bikes reminds me of my childhood 40 years ago, and the Sinclair C5 with what's now Sir Clive Sinclair designing these battery-powered bikes. At the time, we were told they failed because of a to-do over people being low down in the traffic fume zone of the road and not being easily seen by other vehicles, drivers. But Mike Robinson has just reminded me that there was also a big concern on BBC about the insurance requirement for these vehicles. And of course, if you go to insurance, it's the same with injections, allegedly to prevent COVID. You'll often find the insurers know a lot more detail than is publicly allowed to get out as to why they require insurance. Could it be that there was an inherent fire risk with the types of cell that were in the vehicle? Now, just quickly then on Alternative für Deutschland, our regular viewers know that the establishment is moving to ban it. Der Spiegel, in its Panorama imprint, has a report on an attack on a local politician. He's actually the chairman of the AfD section of the City Council of Augsburg in Bavaria, not a small city, Andreas Jurca, a man in his 30s. We'll just put on the image here of what he looked like prior to his attack. This is how Der Spiegel has illustrated him, because they don't want, I think, to rouse sympathy for him by showing what happened after he was set upon. It was something like 6 against 2 in a nighttime alleyway attack. So although it's behind a paywall, Junge Freiheit, which is obviously a title sympathetic to AfD, has brought this out, showing incredibly painful-looking black eyes that he can't open. And the title of this piece is "The Remarkable or Odd Things About Andreas Jurca's Case." So they think there's possibly some political intimidation going on there. More generally, the rhetoric has been, well, you see, there's such a toxic atmosphere that these local men, possibly migrants, may have got annoyed and gone and sought the most prominent AfD man they could find to set upon and leave half dead. But be that as it may, Der Spiegel, in its political rubric, is doing left-hand, right-hand work, because here they've got their editorial, the leading article by Dietmar Hipp, and this is quite a big shake. This is, a very upmarket German title that the whole establishment reads, and it says, "It's time to ban these enemies of the Constitution," which is the same word used in the title of Germany's domestic security service, Verfassungsschutz. So they're strongly hinting that the German secret services will take the correct Der Spiegel-friendly decision and ban the party, which they are making noises about, as I've reported recently. And the byline there is that AfD has become more and more radical, and it's now time to defend democracy. Think of Owen Thompson again, with sharper weapons. And just on the end of this segment, Eugyppius, a German ex-academic who reports very thoughtfully from his own country, he doesn't take a completely conspiratorial line on things. His recent blogs have mellowed in that position, but I think peerless analysis in many areas points out that Germany is chaotic, nothing works. Foreigners don't really understand this about Germany. It's collapsed in many ways, particularly since Merkel left the scene. And here he makes the prescient point, really, that the Germans don't have enough goons to go, if they did ban the AfD, to go and lock everyone up who joined the AfD for valid reasons. A fifth of the population would like to vote for them. And if you did, you would just find migration to a series of splinter parties or revival AfD parties that would be careful not to tread the same red lines again. And Eugyppius ends up saying that they can't police millions of people, which I think, if it's true of Germany, it's true of lesser goon states like Britain as well. So without prosperity, Eugyppius concludes, bland consumerist Western regimes have very little appeal. In other words, they're just going to have to use the mind tricks and threaten to ban these people because there's nothing more left to throw at us.
Alex, pretty incredible, overall, that we're getting the finger pointed. Of course, anybody challenging the government, if that's over social media, that's got to be crushed. And in Germany, at least, we've now got a finger pointed straight at the opposition parties. This is dictatorship.
Well, people are saying that it is dictatorship. I have a viewer now from Spain who responded to my lead segment last week, Taylor Hudak's report on the EU bringing in this media monitoring board to make sure that people pre-censor before they're allowed to upload to the likes of YouTube. And the question arising there was, am I breaking this new law if I share UK column material? So I referred that to the authoress, Taylor Hudak, and she and I and another lawyer friend agreed, no, that's not the focus. So nothing to panic about immediately. But the reason why it's not a focus is because they're going upstream. They want it to be impossible for you ever to get UK column type material in Germany, Spain, or even Britain outside the EU now. So that's why they're focusing the penalties on the media people and not on the individuals.
Okay, Alex, thank you very much for that. Well, it's beholden on everybody to stand up and do what they can to fight back against this. And of course, we're always encouraging people to do what they feel comfortable with, but in a reasonable way.